After changing boats in Australia, and with just two of us on board, we sailed north along the Great Barrier Reef, threading the needle between hundreds of islands, reefs, and coral heads. Reaching the northern tip of Cape York, we swung west once again, and squeezing through the narrow passage between Australia and Papua New Guinea, a place called the Torres Strait. All of the wind, current, and waves that had pushed us through the Pacific Ocean converge here, and force its way through this tiny opening between the continents of Asia and Australia. Popping out the other side lies the Gulf of Carpentaria, the Arafura Sea, and beyond the Indian Ocean. We sailed onward to Darwin to pick up crew, then to Bali. From there, Christmas Island and the Cocos-Keeling Atoll. The following passage across the Indian would take 10 days. I wrote the following while en route. The sky is black, the ocean even darker. There are no lights tonight, no stars, no ships, not even a glow from a reading lamp illuminates the companionway. Somehow the crew is finding sleep tonight, despite being tossed in their bunks. It has been a tough week. Like every night this week, great walls of water crash all around us. Again and again, they lift the boat high in the air and push it forward in powerful surges. Above me in the darkness, a double-reefed main and pulled-out scrap of jib strain under the forces of the howling wind, but it is too dark to see either. I dare myself to look back and feel my heart begin to beat faster. The surreal trail of glowing bioluminescence lying in our wake appears to trail upward into the sky, illuminating a mountainous wave preparing to pounce upon us. I spin forward and quickly glance at the compass and wind instruments in preparation for the white water rolling towards our stern. I suddenly remember the saying, when you're safe at home, you wish you were having an adventure, but when you're having an adventure, you'll wish you were safe at home. My hands grip the wheel tightly as the boat begins to surge forward once again. The rudder hums loudly as we accelerate down the wave face, and the roar of the water rushing out from below our transom is nearly deafening. In the corner of my eye I can see spray leaping up from the starboard quarter in a fantastic stern wave. The rudder begins to hum, growing higher and higher in pitch. The knot meter races upward until it peaks at 15 knots, then slowly retreats once again. The wave finally passes, releasing the boat and leaving us to fall into a trough to await the next monster creeping out of the black night. The skies open up, and rain begins to pour down. I pull up my hood, which the wind promptly plasters to the back of my head. A quick time check reminds me that I've only been on watch for half an hour, and I've got 2.5 hours to go. It's going to be a very long, cold, wet night. Throughout my watch, questions race through my head. Where are we? In which direction are we sailing? How fast are we actually moving? We are in the middle of the Indian Ocean, and our course is 270 degrees. We are going directly downwind, and if there is still any doubt, we are moving very, very fast. Throughout the night watch, I often think about family and friends, and tonight is no different. I'm always amazed how ocean travel brings back so many memories from the past. Things you had long forgotten about come rushing to mind, shockingly vivid, as though they had just occurred, and most often they come back to you during the night. There are pleasant and embarrassing memories alike, pinings for former lovers, and praise for long-lost friends. I regret obscure mistakes I made or things I said long ago, and laugh when I suddenly remember a joke I had heard years ago. I think about my father. He taught me to sail long ago in Lake Ontario, and when we would sail away from the dock during our summer holidays, he would tie a Turk's head bracelet around my wrist. To me, this signaled the start of another adventure on the high seas, even though I was often seasick and terrified when the boat would heel over. The Turk's head became a symbolic tradition, so before leaving Canada, I tied one around my ankle. Shortly after I started to sail the Indian Ocean, halfway around the planet, an email from home reached me over our shortwave radio. My father had passed away. Although there was no way I would make it home in time for the funeral, and the decision to continue west was, while painful, not overly difficult. My father and I had sailed together and visited Cape Horn together. I knew that this journey was as much his dream as my own. The Turk's head on my ankle reminds me on nights like these to keep going, even when the ocean seems huge and crossing it pointless. My watch draws to a close as the sky begins to lighten. Overnight, we have passed the midway point of our 2,000-mile passage between our last stop at the Cocos-Keeling Atoll and our destination of Mauritius. We have been averaging almost exactly 200 miles a day as the consistent trade winds push us across the ocean in the company of waves, seabirds, and dolphins. A lucky crew member takes over for the beloved sunrise watch, while I set about turning off navigation lights and putting the kettle on. The sun warms our backs and begins its climb into the sky. Our world is once again filled with diamond-like sparkles on the brilliant blue water that surrounds us on all points of the compass. I look back from the stern with my mug of tea to admire the spray and foam from our wake. Watching it trail off into the distance behind us, I compare this journey to painting a thin white line across a big blue canvas. The Indian Ocean has reminded me that a sea voyage is as much art as it is adventure. A sailor is an artist, applying skills learned by study and practice. The definition of art itself is an arrangement of forms and movements in a medium that affects one's sense of beauty. The forms are our sails. Movements are initiated at the helm. Our medium is the ocean itself, and the result leaves us awestruck. The white line we leave behind is a perfect expression of freedom and movement on a canvas thousands of miles wide. Another day draws to a close, and I once again take my place behind the helm. The canvas explodes all around me with the vivid golden colors of sunset before turning dark once again. Blue becomes black, and our white line is replaced by iridescent green from the microorganisms that light up in response to our passing. When we draw a map of the world, we draw outlines of the continents, each surrounded by empty voids that we call the oceans. The world that we are familiar with is comforting and solid under our feet. However, in spite of persistent squalls and huge waves, the oceans are far less tumultuous worlds. You can easily find peace out here. It is the place where life and time began. On the surface, you'd swear it hasn't changed since. And as sailors, we possess the unique ability to glimpse below the surface and into this world, and we often see it blink back at us. Our stern waves exist for an insignificant moment in time on the ocean's surface, and life will continue on here as though we had never passed by. Tonight, we continued onward across the ocean, and I once again contemplate that the bright line trailing away from our transom represents the art of sailing, but the glimmer from a jellyfish in the dark water below reminds me that this canvas will long outlive the painter. From the Cocos-Keeling we headed west to Rodrigues, then to Mauritius, then a quick stop in Réunion, a French possession, then south of Madagascar across the Mozambique Channel and to Richards Bay, South Africa, then a quick stop in Durban, then around the Cape of Good Hope into Cape Town. A very common question that I am asked is if I encountered any crazy storms. Yes, but far less likely than one might think. In the true sense of a storm, there were only two. I regret not taking more photos during them, but frankly, holding on to a camera is the last thing on your mind when you're strapping yourself onto the boat and feeling ready to heave. While crossing the Mozambique Channel en route to South Africa, we encountered winds of 50 knots, which is 92 kilometers per hour, and can be classified as an ocean storm. The pictures you see were taken when the wind subsided to a more comfortable level, but I can safely say that when you experience a storm in real life, it's very intense. We were sailing upwind at the time, so the sea spray stung our eyes as we tried to steer carefully over huge breaking waves. You must read every wave and do your best not to be hit by the white water. If you fail to do so, disaster can strike. The captain and I took turns helming in these conditions, and after about 14 hours, we were beyond exhaustion. When I was relieved of my watch, I collapsed and fell asleep on the main saloon floor, still wearing my foul weather gear, life jacket, and harness. These conditions are not unusual in this part of the world. The bottom tip of Africa is known to most as the Cape of Good Hope, but for a long time was known to seafarers as the Cape of Storms, where the warm waters of the Indian met the cold waters of the Atlantic and Southern Oceans. Once safely around, Cape Town lies nestled in Table Bay, and I couldn't imagine a warmer, friendlier place to arrive.